Hello again, everybody. This is Dr. Kendo, and I'm here with a special guest. That would be Steph of Anime. Look at the video.
That's so awesome! I was about to be like, hey.
Yeah, I was like, I don't know if she knows that this is coming up.
I did not.
Yeah, I
That's
don't think
so
you've
good.
seen this yet. So this is all new to Steph as well, what she's going to be seeing on screen. But this is basically the Scribblenauts series where I create characters in Scribblenauts Unlimited, the object editor, and it's just based on whatever you guys vote as most popular, most requested. We had the Patreon create earlier this week, so we created Batman, but I said to everybody in that episode, you still get your regular Sunday episode, so you've got 2 episodes this week, and Steph can join me. So it's like 2 special episodes, you know, that are different, right?
That's epic.
So we started off with a kid to be our source object. You could use almost anything because basically we're creating Mimikyu, I guess, or Mimikyu, however you want to put the inflection on its name. But it doesn't have any legs, like human legs or anything like that. So really we can kind of just take any humanoids and remove the legs from it. And so I'm using a phantom as kind of the main part of the body because Mimikyu is like this disguised Pokemon where the kind of bottom of its little Pikachu-like disguise that we're going to talk about soon is all ripped up down at the bottom, kind of, you know, like that phantom that you're seeing right there. And so then this is from a dryad. You know, I took a female dryad's body, and there's like a layer of black underneath that sort of off-yellow disguise that it's wearing, if you notice that, Steph.
That's so clever. So clever.
We got that little black peeking out behind that phantom body. And just for kind of an extra one, you could use so many different stamps to make this, but I just took the foot of an emu. I think I try to do stamps that, you know, are very useful and I've used before and use them well, but I also often in this series do try to point you to new stamps that you can use that I haven't really used that often or ever before. And so an emu, really we just put that behind the phantom body again to kind of make another little black spike at the bottom, because otherwise it would have been disproportional on both sides of those little like kind of black underneath that disguise, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
And so we can put now the little eyes that are there. It almost looks like the chest, you know, but it's like the Mimikyu eyes because there is going to be that little Pikachu disguise head on top when we're done with this. But right now, for those eyes that you can see on screen, that's a cuttlefish. There's little arms that the cuttlefish has, those little tentacles in the front, and so we just use that one that's at the top. Dramatic chipmunk. And taking the body of that, Steph probably remembers a video that I did where it was like, a dramatic chipmunk, dun dun dun.
Yeah, it was so great. I think it's had multiple appearances.
And then we're using a dramatic chipmunk, dun dun dun. We should, yes, it definitely has the dramatic chipmunks becoming the new Utapam or something.
Yes.
But like, we'll definitely have to make some kind of meme-ish reference here for the dramatic chipmunk.
Yes.
And so, anyway, a frog, I guess you actually have to type in frogs, not just frog, but frog's legs. Or is it, it's frog legs. Okay, I'm getting it right. So frog legs is the stamp for the little tail. And Steph, I actually questioned you, if you remember. I was like, do you think that the tail needs to be on the other side, or should it be right here? And my rationale for putting it this way is that the characters in Scribblenauts are mostly facing to our right. You know, we're looking at the screen right now, and if you point to your right, that's mostly the direction they're facing. It's almost like a 3/4 turn, you know, that they're facing that direction. And so, logistically, the tail would be over on that end if it's a little bit more right facing.
I think that's a really clever thing to do, you know, like to be able to look at a creation and be like, well, actually, if this creation was moving, you know, the tail would be on this side. It makes it more realistic. And cool.
Well, thank you for that. I hope you also found this to be clever in that we're now kind of creating the cheeks of the Pikachu disguise. That was using a pine cone, and the reason is it's a really off-base stamp that I've actually never used before in the series, but the reason for this is that those cheeks are all scribbled on, you know, just like the eyes and stuff. And so to give it that sort of like nasty look that's not like it's not clean, it's all scribbled. And so the pine cone has all these little waves here in and out and stuff, but the color is this sort of orangish red color with then the creamy yellow color dispersed in that. Because and I even took like a painstaking like detail of each of those little segments of the pine cone. You know, you can see each of those little like kind of oval shapes. I specifically looked at an image, you know, of Google Images of Mimikyu, and I thought, okay, how can I like get that scribble as close as possible? So where you see the kind of yellowy color showing up in the pine cone is where I saw that the scribble wasn't, that color wasn't on it in that kind of particular area, I guess.
Wow. It looks great. It looks so great.
Well, thank you. The eyes, to get that same kind of scribbly effect, you can use a sweet roll. There's a few things in this game that kind of have that weird spirally stuff. We've discussed what this is called before, but I don't remember. But it's like a hypnotizing wheel almost, like, a little spiral shape.
Yeah,
I don't know what to call that, but it's like a hypnotizing wheel.
It's a thing.
Yeah, that thingy thing. And so
Yeah.
that was the sweet roll. I just wanted it more scribbly, and it almost looks like that hypnotizing wheel for the eyes. It's just, I thought it looked good.
I agree, especially because you do have his eyes that are so swirly, but yet it's also subtle enough to where, because his eyes do look black too. It's like best of worlds.
Well, I appreciate that you like that, and I'm actually showing right here a difference in the stamp of. We took the body of a witch. When you type it in, that's what that first stamp looks like, but now I just placed on another torso of a witch that came specifically from the 29-page library in this game. There's a collection of just various body parts and stamps and miscellaneous shapes in this game. I call it the 29-page library because there's a collection of 29 pages of shapes. And so if you take the witch specifically from that, then it actually is a little bit, the differences are so subtle, but for me, it was all about how the bottom of that witch's kind of frock or coat, I guess, met the dramatic chipmunk body, so how they connect right there. So it was specifically looking at that part compared to when you just type in witch and take it that way.
Yeah.
So those are basically the base of the ears, and then the tips of the ears, of course, for if you point to our left, kind of that top ear, that was a wisp. If you take a piece of a wisp that's in the bottom right corner for the wisp and just paint it black, that's that tip up there. And then the 29-page library, again, if we reference the 4th page of that, there's an arm shape down in the bottom middle that kind of has that ear to our right. It sort of has that droopy ear shape right there. And so for the last part, I guess, is second to last part, we'll say, is this mouth that's all zigzaggy. Really trying to get the detail on that right, using 29-page library arm shapes from the 20th page. In the top right corner, there's that kind of just basically straight arm. It looks like a little roundish capsule shape. And so I mistakenly said that was the last stamp. The actual last two stamps were this jellyfish tentacle piece that just creates a black line in the tail for some detail. So,
that's great.
We'll read background information right now, and Steph will hopefully be able to chime in wherever she wants to. But this is, we're doing the property stuff, so it's all just kind of not a lot of action going on screen.
Here's where we scar everyone for life about Mimikyu. Let's go.
Basically say that, of course, it's a small Pokemon whose body is almost entirely hidden under a veiled disguise. And the veil itself resembles a very well-known and well-loved character in the Pokemon series. It's obvious just by looking at it, that's Pikachu. And Mimikyu is always covered by this disguise, and it's rumored, actually, I heard that the veil is actually used for protection from sunlight. But we also then later uncover the story of this Pokemon being very lonely, which I would love you to speak to. And using this particular disguise specifically for Pikachu allows it to make friends and be loved, right?
Yeah. It's so interesting because the Pokédex entry for Mimikyu in one of the versions of the game states that, a man saw what it really looked like under the disguise, and it died from shock. It died. It was so sad. So Mimikyu, I'm sure that scarred Mimikyu for life. Someone looked at it and it just died. So it said then that it wears the mask of a really loved Pokemon, and who's more loved than Pikachu, so that it too can be loved. It's so sad.
Yeah, me and Steph discussed this a little bit before recording, and so we're definitely on the same page about that.
Yeah.
And just to see it fight, I mean, with Pokemon and Scribblenauts, the options are limited, of course, because Pokemon themselves can learn tons of moves. So it's like, well, what do I include for its attacks? You could leave out one attack in lieu of another one. And so you're seeing on screen right here, actually, the creations that I've done in the past of the legendaries. Good. Because Mimikyu is in Sun and Moon, and so right here we've got the Sun and Moon legendaries from another episode I did, so certainly we could annotate to that. But just to finish out what I was saying, I just basically had Mimikyu attacking with a chop kind of weapon, because Mimikyu has a lot of scratch-type attacks, but then also it will shoot out a projectile of, I specifically did purple mud, And the reason for purple is because it can learn some, like, these ghost type moves like Nightshade and things that will kind of create that like purpley blue dark effect. So that's what that was for.
I don't know if you also planned it, but the sounds that Mimikyu was making also sounded a little accurate to how it actually sounds in the anime.
That's the other thing is, like, you could imagine how many characters are in Scribblenauts that make sounds, and, like, what are you going to make it sound like? Well, I just chose a harpy, and there are actually other synonyms in Scribblenauts that sound the same as harpy, and so you could do any of them. But you could probably use other things that still sound like Mimikyu as well, aside from that particular sound. But I'm glad that you approve of it.
Yeah, I was like, oh my god, it sounds like it. It's great.
Because that's what I was going to ask you. Is Steph, do you approve? Because
absolutely.
So anyway, I do want to thank you, though, for coming into this, because I asked you just very spur of the moment. You didn't have a lot of preparation and stuff. And so in honor of you not only being here, you're one of the task force members. Of course, we have the Task Force 5. But you've also been, on an individual level, you've been getting into Twitch streaming a lot lately. And so I would love for you to kind of plug your channel and talk about it.
Yeah, that'd be awesome. So a quick shameless plug. We don't want to keep people at the end of the video for too long. I'm Steph of Anime, both on Task Force and on Twitch. So if you go to twitch.tv, you can follow me, hit that little follow button. We're trying to get to 500 followers to do a super cool special event. Just keep watching Dr. K's videos, drop him a like, and give him some nice comments, because it's an epic creation.
And so what days do you usually stream?
Right, that's important. I usually stream on Tuesdays and Thursdays.
Right.
7 to 9 p.m.
You heard it here, and if you see on her channel, it'll also have the schedule, I think, so.
Yes.
But yes, thank you, and thanks to everybody out there. Remember, leave your comments of what you want to see next, and the most popular, most requested thing will get created next Sunday. Ooh. And I will catch you guys on the next vid. Leave a like, and thanks for viewing.
Bye.
Be the viewer, and
down the road of twists and turns, always anxious to see what's within. We can look ahead to the point of no return, to the rest of our lives, and the spectacle begins. I've been down the road of twists